It's a revenge game for Jared Goff and Matt Stafford. We'll tell you which quarterback you want to start next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is the Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're going to talk about all the top starts and sits going into your fantasy football playoffs here in Week 15. And Fabs, I want to start at the quarterback position. We'll get to the other ones. We'll talk about some streamers at the end of the show. But Matt Stafford versus Jared Goff, revenge game. Of these two quarterbacks, you want both of them in your lineup, but which one do you prefer this week?
A double revenge game. Oh,
double revenge game.
Much better than that. I love it. I mean, Stafford's the better play. He came back last week, had over 23 fantasy points. He hadn't been great in 2 of his previous 3 games. The total in this game is like 55.5. I mean, like Vegas thinks this is going to absolutely
check FanDuel as we're doing it. Go ahead.
Burner. The Lions have allowed 17 or more points to quarterbacks 8 times this year. 4 have gone over 25. So Stafford's a really good play. And listen, Goff's a good play too. And, typically, Jared Goff is a guy that you're playing the matchups with. He's typically better at home. But I mean, this is not necessarily one of those situations where it's outdoors and it's going to be cold. I mean, the stadium kind of is outdoors and kind of isn't. I don't know if you've ever been to SoFi, but the weather is not going to be an issue there. And you look at the matchup, the Rams have actually allowed 19 plus fantasy points to 2 quarterbacks in their last 2 games. And one of them was who? Bryce Young. And then the other one was Jacoby Brissett. So it's a good matchup for Goff. And that's going to be just an absolute fantasy football smorgasbord, my friend.
That's too good of a game to have on at 4:00 in the afternoon. Like I wish this was the Sunday night game or the Monday night game this week, but oh well. The total right now on FanDuel 55.5. Yep. So expect some fireworks there. Let's talk about Brock Purdy. Shedeur Sanders put up a bunch of points against this Tennessee defense last week. Can we expect the same from Purdy this week?
I mean, I don't know if he's going for 30. But I certainly think that he's got a really good floor. I mean, he has scored at least 16.8 fantasy points in all but one of his 5 starts. He had that one really bad game and everything else. The floor's been pretty good. And you look at this defense, the Titans have allowed the 2nd most points to quarterbacks in the last 8 weeks. So this is a great spot for Brock Purdy. There's a lot of 49ers I like this week.
Let's go to the other big game this weekend. No, not Cowboys Vikings. Sorry. Let's talk about the Packers versus the Broncos, a game that could decide the #1 seeds in each conference. Are you benching both Bo Nix and Jordan Love this week, if possible?
Yeah, outside of Superflex leagues, I definitely am. Bo Nix has not been great lately. I mean, he's failed to score more than 16.4 fantasy points in 4 straight games. During that time, he's averaged 12.7 points per game. That's cringeworthy, man. And now you got the Packers. They have surrendered just 12.3 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks since week 8. So this defense is playing at a high level, a defense that I am rooting for because I really want the Packers to go to the Super Bowl just to spite Jerry Jones.
Stop it. And then you can't root for that.
No, I hope Micah goes and wins the Super Bowl. I'm rooting for that. And then Jordan Love, who's been en fuego the last couple of games, right? I mean, 7 touchdowns, 45.1 fantasy points. But Denver has allowed 1 quarterback, to beat them for more than 13.4 fantasy points at Mile High. And that includes Patrick Mahomes and Dak Prescott. And that's a game we want to forget as Cowboys fans because that was just disgusting. But the Broncos defense is no joke, especially when they're on their home field. So I don't expect big numbers from Nix or Jordan Love. I worry about their ceilings in this game, and their floors probably aren't great either. And then
go ahead. I was going to say, we've been riding the hot hand of Jacoby Brissett. I'm assuming this is going to be the next name that you brought up.
I feel like I don't know, like I'm dissing him in some way or another because I have been the Jacoby Brissett fantasy football fan club president ever since he's been the starter in Arizona, outside of the first game, because I was like, it's Jacoby Brissett. And now all of a sudden this guy is, Neal Lomax. Cardinals fans may remember Neal Lomax. from their time in St. Louis. But Brissett this week, I don't love him. Like, I think he's probably going to throw a ton of passes, but Houston is where fantasy points go to die. Their defense has held Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes to fewer than 8.2 fantasy points in games this season. So if you're starting Brissett at Superflex, I would, for the first time, fade him in a traditional fantasy football league. The only way you're getting points from Brissett is by luck and garbage time.
Well, it's probably going to happen. Brissett's going to have a huge game. It's just because that's what he's been doing all year. But I want to go to the running back position. Let's talk about another former Cowboy. This is not a Cowboy show, but we like to talk about our Cowboys. Rico Dowdle against the Saints. I know the Saints defense has been better lately, but I got to assume that you still want Dowdle in your lineup.
But not against the run. They've been very good against quarterbacks in terms of the passing game, but not against the run. And so we're going to talk about two players here. And actually, if you look at it, really all three running backs that I have as starts, it's all committee backs. And I don't know if Rico Dowdle is a true committee back now, but in the 2 games before the bye week, he certainly was. And Chuba Hubbard was the better of the 2 Panthers running backs from a fantasy perspective. I like Dowdle more this week. New Orleans has allowed running backs to beat them for 14+ points 10 times, 7 times in the last 8 weeks. Now, can you start Chuba Hubbard as a flex? I think you can. If you're in a situation where you don't have anything better. But I like Dowdle the best. In New England, same kind of thing, Marcus. TreVeyon Henderson is the better back. Now, Mike Vrabel doesn't seem to understand that because Ramondre Stevenson started the last game before New England's bye week, and it was basically a 50-50 kind of split. So you can also start Stevenson this week. Like, I'm going to start Ramondre Stevenson in a multiple flex league because I kind of have to. But Buffalo's defense has allowed 10 total touchdowns. They're averaging nearly 24 points per game. The running backs allowed in the last 8 weeks. Buffalo's not good against runners. And so while Henderson, I think, has the higher ceiling, you could also start Ramondre Stevenson this week in a pinch if you need to as a flex. And now the same thing happens in Chicago.
Yeah.
Where DeAndre Swift was kind of mid last week, 11 points. It's okay. It's not great. But Kyle Monangai is getting burned. So I really think you can play both running backs this week, Swift and Monangai as flexes. Last week, the Browns gave up nearly 30 points to Tony Pollard, who hadn't scored that many points, I think, dating back to his time with the Cowboys. And if you look at Cleveland's defense lately, they have given up the 5th most points to running backs over the last 4 weeks. And 5 different running backs have scored over 17 points against Cleveland since week 10. So you think of Cleveland as this great defense, and, Myles Garrett is bananas, but overall, they haven't been really good against running backs lately, and Tony Pollard showed that last week. So I think you could play both Bears running backs.
And a lot of times it's because the offense can't sustain possession, so they just get tired out as these games go on. They're also way better at home than they are on the road. This game is in Chicago. Have you looked at the temperatures for this game?
Yeah, so can I name drop?
Go ahead.
Okay, one of my buddies is Seth Rollins, and he is a massive Bears fan. And so I was texting with him yesterday. I'm like, bro, it's going to be like 2 degrees in Chicago. He's going to the game this weekend. And he's like, well, yeah, but I'm going to be sitting inside. Like, yeah,
soft. These WWE wrestlers
you better stay
soft.
Inside too, bro, because you're going to be freezing your tuchus off in that game. I once went to, you may not remember this. This was a long time ago. Cowboys, Bears. I think it was 2015, and it was a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
Tony Romo was the quarterback. That's when I actually met Seth. I met him at that game because Jim Nantz and Phil Simms, and Jim's a dear friend, were calling the game. And I was that was back when like CBS or Fox would do like the Thursday night games or whatever. And so that's when I met Seth. That was but I remember how cold it was, brother. And I was freezing. I had multiple layers. I was freezing. Now, these guys are way more manly than I am, but the cold is going to be a factor in this game.
Really quickly, let's get to some sits at running back before we move on to wide receivers. It's the same guys every week. Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. I don't know how you trust either of them.
Yeah. The thing is, who's the Jets quarterback going to be? Is it Brady Cook? I mean, that's terrible. Like if it is, I mean, he scored 4.3 fantasy points last week. Hall did. So defenses are going to completely focus on him over the last 8 weeks. How about this for a stat? Only the Detroit Lions have allowed fewer fantasy points to running backs than the Jaguars. They've been very tough against running backs. Ken Walker, yes, every single week. And it brings a tear to my eye because he's so darn talented and they just don't use him failed to score more than 12 points in 9 of 13 games. And the matchup's not even bad on paper. No. It's not even like a horrible matchup. I just can't play him, unless I'm desperate. And then David Montgomery, who I love, great guy, 12 plus points in 2 straight games, but he's touchdown dependent. And when you look at the matchup against the Rams, only 2 running backs have beaten them for more than 14.6 points this year at SoFi, and one of them was Christian McCaffrey. So while you have to play Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'd play him with confidence, I don't care who he's playing, I don't love David Montgomery this week.
All right, let's talk about the top starts and sits at wide receiver and tight end. Can you really bench Zay Flowers against this Bengals defense? We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. Guys, it's 2025, almost 2026, and those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're gone. They're over with. No more walking it off for 6 months, and no more pretending that, hey, your shoulder's hurting because maybe you just slept on it wrong. Go to the doctor, figure it out. Let's take care of our bodies here in 2026, because staying healthy is more than just hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off, and using ZocDoc can make scheduling easier. You can search for in-network doctors and book right in the app. Real appointment times listed, including same-day visits, and there's no more back and forth phone calls or waiting weeks to be seen. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care that you absolutely need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That is ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. This episode is brought to you by Car Gurus. Car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence that you deserve. They cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars that you want. Because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal possible. And Car Gurus makes the whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else, so you can shop the way that you want to shop. Use Car Gurus deal ratings to quickly compare cars without having to guess whether the price is fair or not. You're going to love being able to filter anything, whether it's the make of the car, the mileage, the trim, the features. So you're only seeing the cars that actually fit what you need. Plus, their price drop alerts are a lifesaver. You'll get notified the second a car you're watching becomes a better deal. Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. So shop the way that you want to, with tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your next car at cargurus.com. That is cargurus.com, cargurus.com. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Hey, you guys should join our Everydayer Club. You'll get access to ad-free shows. You can get Discord access. You can get the 15% off the merch store. It's unbelievable. Go check it out right now. All you have to do is go to lockedondynasty.supercast.com and check out the link in the show notes to help you get there. It's a really cool way to get more involved with the show. Go check it out. All right, Fabs, let's talk about some wide receivers that we are starting this week. I want to go let's start with Justin Jefferson, because you probably haven't been benching Justin Jefferson, because who are you going to put in better in your lineup?
I'm going to push back on that a little bit, but okay, go ahead. He's
a must start this week. I think
almost everybody.
This is the game that he's going to break out. I'm just telling you right now.
Right. So it's bananas to me. Right? Because going into almost every NFL season, when I do start him and sit him, I put in the description that I'm not going to play. I'm going to not tell you to play elite players. Justin Jefferson's not an elite fantasy player anymore. He's not. I told you to sit him last week. Sit him. And he was bad. Now, not on the field, but JJ McCarthy just doesn't get the job done. He has scored 12.3 combined points in his last 3 games. That's terrible, man. And so he's not elite right now in fantasy, but It's the Cowboys, and they are awful against perimeter receivers. They've given up more points to perimeter receivers than any defense in the National Football League. So I'm hoping that Dallas is the ailment for what can cure Justin Jefferson, or the elixir, for what can cure Justin Jefferson and maybe Jordan Addison. It all has to do with JJ McCarthy. He's got to get him the football. But if you start Justin Jefferson any week of the season, it's got to be this week. Even he's been so bad, it doesn't matter. I'm playing Jefferson against the Cowboys.
All right, this next one I disagree with you on, so we're going to debate it. Jaylen Waddle against the Steelers on Monday Night Football. You have him as a start. I have him as a sit. Why don't you go ahead first?
Well, I'm guessing you're having him as a sit because of the cold weather and Tua,
Yes.
which certainly is a factor.
It's going to be very, very cold in Pittsburgh, and it's a night game, so it's going to be even colder.
Okay. Is TJ Watt playing? I mean,
I don't know if it makes a difference. Their defense has been better with him off the field.
The pass rush certainly does, to give Tua a little bit more time in the pocket. And the Steelers defense has allowed the 5th most points to perimeter receivers since week 7. And 14 receivers, regardless of alignment, have beaten them for over 15 points this season, and 7 have done it since week 9. So, this is not the steel curtain of Mean Joe Green, Jack Lambert, and Jack Ham. As I go way back into the Wayback Machine, I like Waddle this week as a wide receiver too. And I don't know that there is a wide receiver that you'll be able to start with confidence over him who has been as good as Waddle has for the duration of the season since Tyreek Hill has gone out. He's been pretty consistent. He's had his ups and downs. But overall, the matchup screams to start Jaylen Waddle this week.
Tua is averaging under 200 yards per game in his career when the temperature's under 40 degrees. And it's going to be like 5 in Pittsburgh on Sunday night. Or Monday night. I just don't see them being able to throw the ball to the outside. And I mean, Pittsburgh has a pretty good secondary. I know that
they do. What about the stats I just rolled off?
Against some better quarterbacks, I just don't see it in this matchup. Tua has not had very many big games against against Pittsburgh in his career. I would bench Waddle if possible. That's me.
Yeah, it's the first week of the fantasy playoffs. I mean, you've got so many wide receivers who are being negatively affected by their quarterbacks. Okay, can you start any Colts this week? Would you start Waddle over Michael Pittman Jr.? I would. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
I mean, yeah.
Right. I mean, you've got issues, man. There's issues out there. People have, Drake London didn't play last night. People have to replace him. I just have a hard time thinking that people have the kind of depth at wide receiver that they can sit Waddle when the matchup on paper is so good.
I would play. Let's go to some sits. I would play DK Metcalf over Jaylen Waddle this week. I know Metcalf had a huge game last week. It seems like Aaron Rodgers is starting to target him more down the field. Maybe it feels like you're chasing the points a little bit, but I would play Metcalf this week over Waddle.
Metcalf has had really one good game as a receiver in the last 2 months. He had that 14-point game a few weeks ago, but that was because he rushed for a touchdown, which is a complete outlier. And Miami's defense has only given up 4 touchdowns and the 4th fewest points to wide receivers since week 7. So that's not a good matchup for Metcalf.
But I also wonder, Fabs, go look at the teams that Miami has played in that stretch. It's the Saints, it's Marcus Mariota, it's the Jets. It was the Ravens in the first game back with Lamar Jackson. They played Atlanta during that stretch with Kirk Cousins.
Listen,
Cleveland.
You cannot crap on Kirk Cousins after what he did last night.
Well, he had one good game. What I'm saying is I think the Dolphins defense is a little bit of a mirage in the sense that they played a lot of awful offenses.
Okay. I'm still going to stick with starting Jaylen Waddle this week. I will play him. I know the weather is going to be cold, but if I can get 5 for 80 out of Waddle, I'll take it.
Real quick, I want to mention Zay Flowers because the Ravens play this Bengals defense that's absolutely atrocious. It is in Cincinnati.
But it's not. It's not. Look at the numbers. And I was shocked.
I mean, as a team, I'm saying the Bengals as a team have a bad defense.
Right, but we're talking about their pass defense.
Yeah.
So listen to this stat. The Bengals defense has not allowed a wide receiver who started his route on the outside to score a touchdown in 8 weeks. And the last time Flowers played Cincinnati, he had 0.6 of a point, Marcus. So we have to stop crapping on the Bengals defense as a whole. because their defense has actually been really tough against perimeter receivers. And trust me, when I was looking at the numbers, it shocked me too. So like, don't just think, oh, it's the Bengals, Zay Flowers, like it's not. This is a bad matchup for Zay Flowers. You can go ahead and play him if you want, but this is not a good matchup, not based on the stats.
We'll see.
You're shocked. I know. Listen, I was
that's
shocked.
All right. We don't have to
too.
agree on all these. That's okay. Let's go to the tight end. I want to go to the other side. If it's not going to be Flowers, it does seem like this is a big Mark Andrews week.
Or Isaiah Likely. And I think I think you could start both of them this week, to be quite honest with you. And, Andrews is coming off a bad game. Likely has actually been the better tight end in Baltimore the last couple of games. And I like them both. Cincinnati has given up 15 touchdowns to tight ends this year. 15. That's crazy town. They've given up the most points to tight ends by a mile. They've given up 12 plus points to tight ends 11 times this year. So I can legit start Andrews and Likely, who I think will both outscore Zay Flowers in this game.
Any other tight ends that you are starting or sitting this week?
Yeah, Harold Fannon's going to be a guy I'm playing. I know David Njoku's banged up, dealing with a bit of a knee. The Bears have allowed nearly 14 points per game to tight ends over the last 8 weeks. I like Dalton Schultz this week as well. Now, he only had 5.2 points last week, but he had scored double digits in 4 of his previous 6. The Cardinals have given up 12 plus points to tight ends 8 times, including 3 since week 11. Last week, Colby Parkinson beat him for over 12 points. Among the tight ends that I'm not playing, and 2 of these guys were on the list last week, Arondé Gadsden. I mean, at this point, if you're not in a dynasty league, you can actually consider cutting Gadsden, because it seems like that carrot just turned back into a pumpkin. And only 2 tight ends have scored more than 10 points against Kansas City this season. Only 2. Dallas Goedert, who I didn't love last week, he had a huge game, so people are going to play him this week. Do you know that the Raiders have allowed 1 touchdown and the fewest points of tight ends in the last 8 weeks? I mean, that's insane. And then Evan Engram, who everyone was like, oh, he bounced back a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to play him last week against who? The Raiders, 2.8 fantasy points. He's got Green Bay this week. And in that matchup, when you look at the numbers, 6 tight ends have scored double digits against Green Bay, 6. But 3 of them were Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson, and Sam Laporta. Evan Engram is not on that level.
All right, let's talk about some players that you can pick up off the waiver wire and start in week 15, including a certain Saints running back. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times of the year for sports. We just have action every single day between bowl games, big basketball matchups. We've got the NBA Cup. We've got playoff pushes, and it's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is on Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, it's fast, and it's available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule, and creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the entire process smooth and quick. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Fabs, let's finish up here with some streamers. And I want to go to the running back position to start. Devin Neal, depending on your bench size, he might be available in your dynasty leagues. He is available in a lot of redraft leagues. But I think Devin Neal is somebody that I am getting really excited about from a dynasty perspective. And if he's on your bench, I think you should play him this week.
Well, I mean, we told you to play him last week, and he had a very good game, over 15 fantasy points. Assuming Alvin Kamara doesn't play again this week. The Panthers have given him the 6th most points of running back since week 7. 9 have finished with 14 plus points against him this year. So Devin Neal is a really good play as like an RB2 flex type for those in need.
Let's go to some receivers. Jacoby Myers and Jaywan Jennings. Myers has been really good since
I know. That's why I was surprised. Yeah, I mean, like, the last I looked, he was starting in like around 40% of leagues on ESPN. 40%, that's it. And so I looked at it. That actually goes up to over 60% on sleeper. So I don't know.
Well, if you had to start between Myers and Brian Thomas Jr., which one are you playing this week?
Myers, definitely. I mean, Myers has scored 11 plus points in 4 straight games. He's had 2 with more than 15. And to me, I think he's the better fantasy wide receiver. That's actually one of the better trades that happened at the deadline, because the deadline's fun, Marcus, to make trades. We don't go back.
I agree. It is fun to make trades.
We talked about it yesterday. And I think he's a good flex starter against the Jets. The Jets are kind of just simply playing out the schedule right now. So Jacoby Myers is a good play. And Juwan Jennings, I love him this week. Now, for the duration of the year, he started off, he was hurt, he wasn't doing anything. Brock Purdy was out, and Jennings was kind of an afterthought. I actually saw him getting cut in some leagues, but he scored at least 13.9 points in 4 of 6. And the Titans over the last 4 weeks have allowed 9 touchdowns and the 5th most points to wide receivers. So, I know I'm kind of overlooking Ricky Pearsall because his numbers have been garbage ever since he's come back. Jennings is the guy that I want to start. And I could see starting Juwan Jennings over like Breece Hall if Brady Cook is the starter for the Jets as a flex.
Real quick to Myers. We thought Jacksonville just needed another competent receiver. I guess we didn't know how badly they needed one, because Myers has become really the de facto number 1 there. And it makes sense. Like he gets open. He's in the right spots. He's not the biggest, the best athlete in the world, but in that Liam Cohen offense, like he can scheme guys open. You just need somebody that knows how to read coverages, and Myers can do that. I wanted to go to a tight end, and you mentioned him briefly in the previous segment. Isaiah Likely, and I don't think people realize like just how good Isaiah Likely could have been over the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
He just holds on to the darn ball. He fumbled the ball against the Bengals at the 1 yard line.
Yeah, and then that was a touchdown against Pittsburgh. I don't know what the NFL was thinking.
Well,
Marcus, that was a touchdown, dude.
100%. I agree. It's just awful officiating. So, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns taken away from him. And again, hold on to the ball for a half second longer in each case, and he probably has them. Against this Bengals defense, they cannot cover tight ends. I think you can start them.
Yeah, it is legit like Christmas Eve in Cincinnati when your tight end is playing against them, because there will be the gift of fantasy points. There's no doubt about that. I mentioned it, 15 touchdowns. They give it up to tight ends. It's week 15 right now. Like, do the math. I mean, it's insane. So I really I would not be surprised if Likely had more points than Andrews this week. It wouldn't surprise me at all, because he's had better games in the last 2 games for Baltimore. One other player who I really want to talk about, because I dig him this week, and that's Jaxson Dart. I love him this week. There are a whole litany of quarterbacks that I would play ahead of Jaxson Dart ahead of, and Patrick Mahomes might be one of them. Dart has been one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy when he's been active. He's been mostly consistent, and the Commanders have allowed 18 plus points to quarterbacks 9 times, and they just gave up over 20 points to JJ McCarthy. And I mean, the Washingtons, they've mailed it in on the defensive side of the football. Dart could be a top 5, top 8 quarterback. We've already got a quarterback who's going to be in the top 5 in Kirk Cousins, because he had 27 points. So he's going to be top 3, top 5 for sure. I think Dart's going to get into that top 8 this week, and he will be one of the quarterbacks who, if you start, will help move you on to round 2.
Also, I'm going to say JJ McCarthy. If you have him on your bench, I think this is a good week to start him. And I know that sounds crazy.
All right, over who? I want to know over who.
I would play him over Bo Nix. I would play him over Jacoby Brissett. Fabs, do you have any doubt that Minnesota's going to score 30 points this week against Dallas?
No, I do. No, I don't know that they're going to score 30 points this week. I don't.
That total, I believe that total right now is 54.5 on FanDuel, which
30 points. Listen, man. I don't believe in JJ McCarthy.
I'm going to clip this out.
He had a good game last week. I get it was against Commanders. He didn't help Justin Jefferson. That's the big bugaboo I have with him.
Here's my prediction for you before we go.
Go ahead.
JJ McCarthy is going to outscore Dak Prescott in this game for fantasy points.
Wow.
We'll come back and discuss it on Monday. But that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making
God. Wait, my mind is blown here right now.
Just,
like that
just
meme
watch.
of the orange guy with his head blown up.
Just watch. You'll see. Make sure to subscribe and follow the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast so you get all of the latest episodes. And did Locked On Dynasty make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it to us on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. And make sure you check out Locked On NFL. That podcast has 2 shows every single day, one in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Fabs on Twitter. Go ahead, Fabs. What?
Before we go, I want to put a bet on that.
Okay.
I will bet you. We'll come up with something. We'll come up with something. We got to have some kind of wager on that. I'm going to take Brock over JJ McCarthy. We got to have some kind of wager about that. I don't know what it's going to be.
We'll figure it out.
We got to have something.
All right. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy the fantasy football playoffs. We'll see you right back here on Monday.